first of all, shout out to all the content creators, social media, booktubers, whoever, who because of kids or because of just like real life responsibilities make these videos way too late at night, which is what I'm doing. I'm still wearing my work clothes. It's 10 p.m. I have had a busy day, but I just really, really want to finish it off and share with you the books that I've read in 2026 that are like of a literary style. I read in all different genres. This channel is called Literary Whimsy because I'm very whimsical with what I read. It just sort of like depends on my mood or if I like a cover. But these are sort of literary style books, but like of all different types that I'm going to share with you. I've read some good ones. This book is called Kukum, and it's by Michael Jean. I don't know if it's Michel Jean or Michael Jean. He is a French author from Quebec. And this is a CanLit book, Canadian literature. This book was written in 2019, originally in French, and it was translated into English, I think in 2022. It was a bestseller, and it is a really beautiful, like, non-fiction-esque fiction book. Kukum refers to a woman named Amanda who was born in the early 1900s. She was an orphan, and she lived on a farm with her aunt and uncle who took her in out of obligation. And at the age of 15 years old, she had a very like big love story experience where she ran into an Innu or an indigenous boy who was a hunter. I think he was 17 years old, and he like rode by her on his canoe, and she kind of just fell in love, and they fell in love, and they started to meet. And even though there were language barriers between them, they decided they wanted to spend their lives together. So at the age of 15, she left her aunt and uncle with their permission and married a young Innu hunter. The word kukum is the Innu word for grandmother. So the author of this book, his great-grandmother was this woman, Amanda. So her maiden name was Fortier, but her married name was Simeon. And he, I think, came across like some diaries and some writings that she had done at the end of her life. She lived to be almost 100 years old. And he kind of took those writings that she had and turned them into this beautiful, beautiful story. It is a story of romantic, overwhelming love. It is a story of tragedy. It is a story about how, in Canadian history and with also history just in North America in general, Indigenous people or people who were native to this country were forced to change their way of life and the ramifications that those things have. Like these were nomadic people who traveled and hunted and lived off the land in such like a very difficult way, but also a very pure way. It was their way of making their living, and they lived in community, and that way of life was taken away from them, and they ended up living on reserves, and their children were sent to residential schools, and all these different things that we know about now that were so terrible and so unjust. But in the midst of like her life, where she sort of like flows through that change of leaving her, I think her background was like English perhaps, or her parents had come over to settle in Canada, and then they passed away, and she ended up with her aunt and uncle into this nomadic lifestyle as a Caucasian woman, and then having that lifestyle sort of taken from her and the effects it had on her children and great-grandchildren was just really fascinating, sort of bittersweet, and this was like a very good book. I picked this out just based on the cover, like, you know, when you go to the library and they have like books that are like this, and then they have like every few shelves, they have one that's out like this. Well, whoever the librarian was, thank you, had it out facing. And I picked it up and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I devoured it. It was translated into English, like I said, in 2022. And it was very well translated. You couldn't, like, sometimes when you read a translated book, the language is sort of jilted, but that wasn't the case with this one. It really flowed very nicely. And I give this one, this is a 5-star read. It is called Cucum, and it is by Michael Jean. A Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett is a book that I listened to on Audible. I had a few credits sort of hanging around, and I'm so glad I used one of them on this book. It is a family dramedy. That's what I would say. This is like a family dramedy. And it is about a man in his 60s who came from a lot of trauma as a kid and went to the Vietnam War, and also has an alcohol problem and has like had a lot of family tragedy and is divorced. And he is like a hot mess, and he is very dependent on his ex-wife and her new partner. They look after him, basically. Through a very tragic set of events, he becomes a legal guardian to his brother's grandchildren. Very tragic events lead to this. And these kids are a boy and a girl, and they're 9 and 10 years old. And just kind of like through just like crazy circumstances and decisions that he makes, they end up on a road trip. So it's like him, his adult daughter, who he has a contentious relationship with, and these two kids. They go on the road trip to, I don't want to spoil it, but to like find the real father of one of these kids, which is like a whole thing. But it was just so entertaining and so lovely. And it was so lovely to listen to. The character of PJ, like I said, is a man in his 60s, and the narrator of this book really reflected that character. Like, you really felt you were in PJ's point of view. It is a story about forgiveness. It is a story about reckoning with your past. And it is a story like relationships. Like, I love the way that through this book, like, we see the pain and also like some healing in the relationship with his adult daughter. And we also learn how he became the way he is. And as we get to know him better, you understand more why he's kind of in the state that he is in life. He's still very lovable, and he's very funny, and the kids are funny. It's very tragic, and it's did a really good job of having very sad subject matter and dealing with really, really, really tragic things, but then also on the same page being kind of funny and just like lovely to listen to or read. So this book is a 5-star read for me. It is called The Road to Tender Hearts. It is by Annie Hartnett. I am looking forward to reading more of her books, and I recommend this one. The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, and this is a book written in the form of letters. The main character, her name is Sybil, and she has a passion in life for writing, like sitting down with a pen and writing letters to people she has known since childhood, for people that she is writing to complain to people who she admires. Like, she writes to well-known authors and celebrities, and sometimes she gets responses back. Like, through her life, thousands and thousands of letters. And through these letters, we learn the whole story is told this way. It's so smart and so clever. And through this, we learn of her life and her disappointments and her tragedies and her successes and the pain that she carries inside, things that she hasn't dealt with. So when we meet Sybil, she's like in her maybe late 60s. And we sort of like find out about her through these letters and find out about her past relationships through these letters. It is a beautiful book. It is very popular. Maybe you've read it already. I'm so glad I read this book. This might be my favorite book of the year so far. It is called The Correspondent. It was released in 2025, and it is by Virginia Evans. You should definitely read this book. This is another nice short little read. This one is, this is large print, and this is how short it is. I love a large print book. I got no shame about that. And large print, it is 166 pages. So it is a short book, a novella, really. And it is about two people, Addie and Lewis, and they are neighbors. They're both in their 70s, and they have lived on the same street in the same neighborhood for like 45 years, like a long, long time. And they sort of just knew of each other. They were both widowed or widowers, and they kind of knew basic gossip about each other, but didn't really have a relationship. And one day, Addie shows up on Lewis's front step, and she tells him that she has a proposition for him. And the proposition is that she wants to start to like have him over for sleepovers, and not in a sexual way, but just to have companionship and to have someone to talk to and just to feel intimacy with someone. And he's taken a little bit aback, but he does inevitably agree, and they develop a relationship and a friendship. So they see each other through different challenges that are related to their age, that are related to just different family dynamics that they both have with their children, and also sort of like a reckoning with the past. They both reckon with how they viewed each other, just like from like hearsay and gossip that you know about your neighbors, just sort of like the perception that other people have, that they have of each other. It was actually written in 2015 and very quickly adapted. It is a Netflix film, and it stars Jane Fonda and the late Robert Redford. I had seen this like when it was released, and I didn't realize it was the same story until I started to read it. I thought, obviously, like I always think the book's a little better. I thought the book was a little better, although because of the short nature of the book, the film did a pretty good job of encapsulating the whole story. And I am very excited to read more books by Kent Haruf. Haruf? I don't know. I should have looked up how to say that. And he, interestingly and sadly, wrote this while he was dying, I think, of kidney disease. And that's why it's so short, because he didn't have a lot of time to write it. And it is kind of written in like a retrospective way. Yeah, so I have actually put on hold some more books by him that I'm very excited to read. But this one is called, it's a short read. If you're looking for just something short and satisfying about relationships and aging and like real people, this is the book for you. It is called Our Souls at Night. I got this book also from the library. It is called The 10-Year Affair. It is by Erin Somers. And very similarly, I just sort of like plucked it off the shelf at the library because the title really like drew me in, and the synopsis of the book drew me in. It is about two young parents who are married, like not married to each other, like two parents who meet in a baby group. They both brought their kids to a baby group, and they kind of develop a bond with each other. They sort of embark on a 10-year affair, except it's sort of like a sliding doors what if situation where the main character, she sort of flows in and out of like, oh, if I had the affair, this had happened, or if I hadn't had the affair. Her name is Cora, and so when Cora sort of embarks on this affair, like we don't really as the reader know if she did or did not have the affair, if it's something that she sort of made up in her head, or if it's something that really happened, which I know that sounds weird. It is kind of weird when you're reading it. The idea of this is cool. I love a sliding doors. When I refer to sliding doors, I'm referring to the Gwyneth Paltrow movie where you see like her life go in different directions based on like just sort of an incidental event. one where she stays with her boyfriend, and one where she finds out he's cheating on her and she goes and lives another life. If you haven't seen that movie, it is very good. You should watch it. This, I feel like, was ambitious and it could have been really good. It's just like there wasn't enough structure to it. Like, you weren't sure what perspective you were reading, or I wasn't sure anyway. That didn't work for me. Like, I like a literary flow. I like some ambiguity. Like, I don't need everything to be very neat and tidy. But at the same time, I was left a lot of the time sort of confused. There's also like a scenario in the book where Cora and her husband bought a house and they couldn't even really afford the house. And every week or so, a mushroom just like grows on their bathroom floor and they're just too tired and too broke and just too exhausted to deal with it. They just like pluck the mushroom. And there's like some real comedy in this book. Yeah, the whole concept of it, I just like I couldn't really get into it. I just found myself confused. The next book is a book called Kitten, and it's by Stacey Yu. I'll put it up here. I got this as an ARC from NetGalley solely based on the cover. Like, I was just like, I think it was a read now, or if it wasn't a read now, it's like I requested it, and like the next day I got an email saying that I was able to read this book for review. And I'm glad I did. It is about a young woman named Katie. She lives in New York City. She just graduated college. And she is kind of, as in many of these like sad girl lit fic books, is adrift. And she has a very difficult relationship with her mother. She leans on her roommate too much. Her career, she doesn't know what she's going to do with herself. She hasn't got that figured out yet. And she has a very wealthy boyfriend named James, who she's always kind of trying to figure out and always kind of trying to navigate and sort of appease. And one day, James takes her to his parents' beach house. He's very wealthy. And she meets his family cat, and the cat's name is Silver. And she forms a very intense bond with the cat. And through this and don't worry, I was a little worried. It's not like a weird relationship with the cat. Like, it's not like sexual or anything. You know, I was kind of like nervous. I was like, uh-oh. But it wasn't like that. She just kind of just really bonds with this cat. And I think because she has a hard time relating to other people and figuring out other people in her life. And through the cat, she sort of goes through this time in her life and figures herself out, sort of. She does figure herself out as much as like a lost 20-something person can. But just kind of like explores her relationship with her mom, and just all these things kind of happen to her. I like this book. I would say I give it a 4 stars. It's a debut novel, and maybe 4.5 stars. I don't know. It's a debut novel. It's beautifully written. It's a neat idea. It's a cool concept for a book, and I'm excited to see more of what Stacey Yu does. It is not yet published. It comes out in August of 2026, and I thank NetGalley for the chance to review this book. As far as this channel goes, I have wanted to start a booktube channel for so long, and I just cannot get myself together to do it. I'm like so many of you out there. I have a job, and I have kids, and just like all this other stuff going on. But I really want to make it a goal this year to just like share myself in this way, even if nobody watches. I love watching book reviews and just kind of like book content. It just relaxes me. So I wanted to share also what I am reading. I'm reading this book. It's called A Quilting of Scars. It is a Canadian literature book by an author called Lucy E.M. Black. And it is about a man who lives in rural Ontario, Canada in the early 1900s. So it's about a character named Larkin Beatty who reveals the many secrets he's kept hidden through his lonely life This character-driven narrative is a meditation on aging and remorse, offering a rich account of the strictures and rhythms of farming in the not-so-distant past, highlighting the confines of a community where strict moral codes are imposed upon to its members. I'm very excited to read this one and review it. I've heard really great things. So this book is called called A Quilting of Scars, and it's by Lucy E.M. Black. Another book I'm reading, this is a large print version. I love a good large print. It's a library book, and it's called Black Woods, Blue Sky, and it's by Ewan Ivey. It is about a single mother who is kind of struggling to keep it together. She lives in Alaska, and she meets a reclusive man named Arthur. She's warned by her community that he's not the right person for her, but she has all these memories of when she was a child of like being out in nature. So when he asks her to go out into the wilderness and live out in the wilderness with him and her daughter, she does. I don't know what happens. I haven't read very much of this book. But I imagine that there are some secrets about Arthur and some things about Arthur that aren't what she thought. So I am very excited to read this. Again, it's called Black Woods, Blue Sky. And I'm going to make another video soon about some romance novels that I've read in 2026. I've read a few memoirs. But for now, I thought I would just keep it at these literary style books. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, it's Literary Whimsy with Chrissy. Bye!